Hello, everybody. Welcome to Reserve Seating, and we are starting off July with flailing arms. And what's on your shirt? Brendan Marsh.
Go Phils.
Go Phils. Yeah, I don't know. Chicago Dogs
Yeah, go
have
dogs.
two of the top five home run hitters in their league right now.
It's
Jacob
all
Teeter, don't call me Jeter,
uh-huh. I like
and
that.
Narcisco Crook, who used to be on the Cubs.
It's
So
all
there
coming
you
up.
go.
Reserve seating baseball.
And we should probably start our mailbag, our
We can do
special
that
mailbag episode, which, by the way, thank you to everybody who sent in a question.
as
We
always.
always appreciate it.
Yes.
We should probably start with the baseball
Start with the
questions.
baseball questions. Yes.
Yeah. So our first question comes from Sean, and he asked for our Mount Rushmore of movie baseball players.
Should we build our Mount Rushmore together? Like, should it
Mm,
be four total choices of reserve seatings? Because I feel strongly about like one or two and not as strongly about other ones. So
Yeah,
maybe
I
if
would.
we find like a cross section where there's four we feel really strongly about, we can do that.
Yeah, that works.
All
So
right.
who's your number one that has to be on the Mount Rushmore?
I mean, has to be on Mount Rushmore, and this is super obvious, and we're going to talk about him again later, but it's got to be Crash Davis from Bull Durham.
Okay. All
So
right.
that would be my number one.
I had a list of about five people that could have been on here. So Crash Davis was among the list.
Okay.
So Crash Davis has a
Crash
proud
Davis
spot
has made it.
on
Okay.
Mount Rushmore. My number one, where I'd feel bad if she was left off, is Dottie Henson
Dottie's
from
also on my
Believer.
list. So, yes.
Okay. Okay. This is easier than I thought it would
It's
be.
easier. Yeah. I'm going to go with Gary Busey's character from Rookie of the Year, Chet Stedman.
That's a great choice, and I considered him, but I left him off because of the Gary Busey of it all.
I understand that, but I'm gonna try to. I don't know. We can talk about it. Maybe he won't
So,
make the cut, but that would be my next nomination.
okay, let's put a pin in Chet
We'll
Stedman.
put a pin in Chet.
This was tough because I couldn't decide who from Major League I wanted on there.
Me too. Yeah.
So I was torn between either it can't be both of them. It has to be
Right.
one because I don't want it to be like more than one person from one movie. So it's between Jake Taylor and
Yeah.
Willie Mays Hayes.
So I'm gonna go Will. I'm gonna go with Willie Mays Hayes on this one, just from a
Okay.
managerial perspective, because I feel like he's just a more versatile player. I mean, although Taylor's a backstop, right? Taylor's a catcher.
He's Carlton Fisk.
And I
So
love catchers. I'm a huge catcher guy. I'm always my favorite baseball players are mostly catchers. So I feel bad, but I'm gonna go Willie Mays Hayes. I don't know. You could present an argument for Taylor.
I just think, heart and soul of the baseball
Yeah,
team, it's a quintessential Tom Berenger performance. And he's among actors who play baseball players among the most believable.
it's true.
He's very likable. He's kind of the heart and soul of that movie.
My
But I can't argue against Willie Mays Hayes.
my
So
only thing is that you may have noticed we've already taken two catchers.
this is true. That
So
seems a little silly.
I'm
Just
just I don't
maybe
know.
it's interesting because we never picked this up when we were reviewing baseball movies. How
Right.
many of them are sketcher
Well, it's
focused?
also it's also just that thing because pitchers and catchers make the best movie characters out of all the baseball positions because they're the ones who are most actively involved in the game. Like
Yeah.
a movie about a left fielder would be pretty boring. Um, but just pointing that out there. So again, I don't mind. I'm okay conceding to Taylor if we want to do that. I just feel like for the sake of variety, we should go Willie Mays Hayes. That's just me.
Well, let's say if it's okay with you, let's say Chet Stedman and Willie Mays Hayes are our tentative threes and fours.
Okay, that's fine.
But let's go through the rest of our list, and if anybody collectively we decide is better than one of those two, then they get their spot.
Right.
The only other person I have on my list is Tanner Boyle from Bad News Bears,
Yeah.
the foul mouth little kid shortstop. I don't feel passionate about that
I
pick.
don't
So
feel
it's like,
the problem with the Bad News Bears is I don't feel passionate about really any of them except for what's her face?
Tatum O'Neal.
Tatum O'Neal's character, right?
Yeah. I'm good with Chet Stedman, Willie Mays Hayes as
Let's just
three
do
of them.
that then, because some invariably somebody's going to get upset with us without because we didn't pick anybody from The Sandlot. Um, I'm
I
fine with
considered
that.
Benny the Jet. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily. I'm not. I mean, we've talked about this. I'm not a huge Sandlot guy. But yeah, let's go with those four. So our four were our Mount Rushmore was Crash Davis, Dottie Henson, Willie Mays Hayes, and Chet Stedman.
Correct.
I
Yes.
like it.
Because Rob and I are baseball fans, and I'm assuming that we've got some baseball fans because there seems to be a big movie baseball crossover amongst fandom. The Venn diagrams work out. So
Very
leave
cinematic
your
sport.
Mount Rushmore of baseball movie characters in the comments because we would
Awesome.
like to know that.
So our buddy Anthony asked FMK these baseball Costners: Crash Davis from Bull Durham, who we just mentioned,
Yeah,
Ray Kinsella from Field of Dreams, and Billy Chappell from For Love of the Game.
it's easy. Kill off Billy Chappell.
Yeah.
And then I would marry Crash Davis, F Ray Kinsella.
The only thing for me is you marry Ray Kinsella and he's going to mortgage your house for a baseball field. Because on paper, I feel like Crash Davis is more, a girl in every port kind of guy. You don't really marry Crash Davis.
But the stories,
But
man,
this,
you'll
but
have some good
exactly.
stories.
So I'm thinking at first, like you marry Ray, but yeah, I don't trust Ray.
Okay, so Louis asked us in honor of June exploitation, what are some of the movies that made you fall in love with the exploitation genre? And are there any glaring blind spots you would like to remedy next year?
So my answer for this one is going to be is really a bummer,
Mine
um,
is too.
but it is honest. And I have to be honest. I am in the year 2003. I am a young person. I am in high school. I am a sophomore in high school around this time, and I see Kill Bill volumes one and two for the first time. I did at the time and still do consider myself a cinematic omnivore. I don't really attach myself with any particular affection for any one genre. I like to think I have a pretty decent diet of all things. But it was, and again, just being honest, because of the time that it came out, I really didn't understand what the exploitation genre was until I saw Kill Bill. Um,
Mm,
because it introduced me to many of the genres that we just spent a whole month watching and enjoying. And happy June exploitation, everybody. Can't wait to do it again next year. But um, that first movie. I mean, I there are so many movies that I discovered. One, because I was coming into myself as a cinephile at that time, but also just when you're a kid, you're most of us, I assume, are getting this diet of fairly mainstream movies, and it's not until you see something like frankly, for a lot of guys our age, a Tarantino movie, to really kind of show you like, oh no, wait, there's this whole other universe that you may not have been exposed to. So
mm.
that for me is that's I mean, again, it's lame and it's kind of like I don't know, whatever. Maybe there I'm supposed to have a cooler answer than that. Um, but that's my exploitation origin story. And as far as blind spots, I don't know that I have, because I've been writing for the site for 8 years now. I don't know that I have any exploitation blind spots, any major ones left. But the beautiful thing about the genre is you're always looking for more. There's always going to be new stuff to discover. So I don't know. That's my deal.
My answer might be more depressing than yours. If I got into exploitation cinema via Tarantino, it was not conscious.
Yeah.
It was just sort of I was into the Tarantino movie, and I don't think until recently I really like sought out the influences of his movies. And I don't even do that all that often. To be completely honest with Louis, because we love Louis,
Yeah.
um, I'm not an exploitation guy.
Right.
So like I feel very much like a tourist or a guest during June. Whereas October's my wheelhouse. Like I'm a huge horror movie
Yeah.
fan. So and that's fine. I mean, like I like to play my part in if this movie's June exploitation, even though like I kind of am really like relying on Patrick curating stuff for me, like to watch with
Sure.
him and his and like some of the crew that are local here, or like deciding on stuff to watch based off of the theme that we're doing for reserve seating. And sometimes I like the stuff and sometimes I don't. I will say that over the years, I've found that I really like black exploitation horror a lot.
Oh yeah.
So like Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, Blackula, Tales from the Hood, Sugar Hill. I like all that stuff a lot. Um, so in terms of what I want to seek out next, I don't have like titles in particular, but I wrote down a couple of themes that I would be like I would like to watch more of the Godzilla Showa era stuff. So for Kaiju Day, I kind of Godzilla minus one sort of like ignited that interest for me. And then I would like to see more AIP stuff because it's usually an hour long, and I've enjoyed like Bucket of Blood and Rock All Night and things like that. So Chris asked us, is Glenn Powell this generation's Cary Grant?
It's interesting that you went with Cary Grant on this one, Chris.
Yeah,
What do you think when, and Chris isn't here to answer, and he's welcome to answer, and in the comments, we always like to hear from Chris, but um, what do you think the rationale is on that Cary, when we say he's this generation's Cary Grant? Is it the sort of, is it an articulate, is he's kind of got a haughtiness to him? Is that like, do you think that's what Chris is going for with this?
I don't really read him as haughty. I kind of just read him as like charismatic and verbal, and that's
Yeah,
maybe like where the
that's what I
correlation
mean.
comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I really like Glenn Powell, and I'm very glad that he's coming into his own,
Yes.
and that he's becoming a movie star. He was always just solid and stuff over the years, and he's great in Hitman. He was great in Top Gun Maverick. He got out of Anyone But You alive, even though that movie
He
took
ma-
everyone
he's
down with it.
he's not he gets out of that one. He's not at fault for that.
He looks awesome in Twisters. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like one of the most exciting parts about Twisters is that the cast is pretty interesting. Um, I think it's premature to put him in the league of a Cary Grant.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
think he needs like 20 more years of solid work before we put him in that category. Just not to denigrate Cary Grant.
And not to
So,
denigrate denigrate Glenn Powell either, because I think for
yeah,
so many of us, what's so exciting about someone like a Glenn the thing that's so exciting about someone like a Glenn Powell or even a Sydney Sweeney, although I don't, well, never mind, I shouldn't say that. Never mind.
just say it. It's
I don't
reserved
think
seating.
Sydney Sweeney's that talented. I think Immaculate's kind of bullshit and whatever. I think it's great that we have Glenn Powell because it means we're getting movie stars back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's my only, and that's not my take. That's not a new take. I know we've been talking about that a lot the last few months. Of sort of, speaking of the Top Gun Maverick of it all, it would be great if a movie that's kind of about Tom Cruise being like, "Nah, man, movie stars, come on, let's do it, let's keep going," and if Glenn Powell rises above the pack, above the sort of the ashes of Marvel, and kind of is like,
yeah.
no, 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 we can make star vehicles again. That is awesome. So I'm always rooting for Glenn Powell. I think he's great.
Yeah, I heard he had like a quote about somebody asked him if he wanted to be in like the next Jurassic Park movie or like the or Dominion maybe it was even, and he's just like those movies don't need me. And it was
Right.
such like a cool
It's a
answer.
great answer.
I'm
Yes.
like yeah, yeah. Exactly. Okay, next question comes from Miko. Favorite scenes or movies set at a real or set at a real or fictional band's live gig?
My first one has to be the final performance from Josie and the Pussycats. It has to be the final performance of that film. It's a great plot moment. It's a cool live performance. The songs are great. They come together at the end, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to end that movie.
I didn't have this on my list, but your Josie and the Pussycats recommendation or pick led me to remember Lindsay Lohan's band at the end of Freaky Friday.
Yes.
They are one of the best fictional bands of all time, and I'm very excited that
Come
there's going to
back.
be a Freaky Friday 2,
Yep.
just for no other reason than the band's coming back. Yeah,
My next one has to be Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, one of my all-time favorite movies. God gave rock and roll to you.
great
Which
song. Yeah. So I've got a bunch on my list. I guess I'll go next. This is the biggest stretch, maybe, because it's not a band, but it is music being performed live.
Okay.
And I think some of the best live performance in a movie, like a fictional musical act, is the end of 8 Mile with the rap battles.
Oh yeah,
So I wanted to include that.
totally. A movie I have not watched in forever, but I keep meaning to.
It holds up.
It holds
I
up.
watched it again a couple of years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it holds up.
All right, so my next one has to be both the opening and closing performances from Streets of Fire.
I had that on
Has
my list.
I
Yeah,
mean,
very
has to
good
be
choice.
Nowhere Fast, and Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young. Both songs playing such important roles in the movie themselves. It's such an awesome way to bookend the movie. I
Hmm.
love the songs. Jim Steinman, who is just, it turns out, one of my favorite songwriters. Every time I hear like a big bombastic ballad from the 80s, I look it up. And no matter who the singer is, I look it up and it's Jim Steinman
Yeah,
as the writer. I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy was great. The movie rules. Obviously, we love Streets of Fire. If you know this movie, you know how much we love that movie. And that's got to be on the list.
I guess I'll put a documentary on the list.
Huh?
I mean, Stop Making Sense was the first thing that came to my head,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
wasn't sure if that counted for this, but
yeah. I mean, we can count it. Yeah, I don't see why not.
yeah.
And then last one on my list. I'm very sorry, everyone, but it has to be the final Barton Bella's a cappella performance from Pitch Perfect.
I have never seen it, so
I
I'll
listen
take your
to it
word
all the
for it. It's
time. It's
awesome.
got a great ending. Anna
Yep.
Kendrick and her Aka boyfriend. It's got a great one of the best uses of "Don't You Forget About Me." It's got this moment. Um, just yeah, still unabashedly love Pitch Perfect, and I think it's a great ending to that movie. So that's the last one on my list.
I had three more. I had the last concert in Whiplash.
Totally.
Um, I had the Wonders singing that thing you do at Villa Pianos
Hmm.
when they get the song for right for the first time. If I'm being honest,
Yes, which you
I,
should.
which I should, I rewatched Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze
Yeah.
about a week ago. The Vanilla Ice concert is kind of a banger.
I mean, sure, man.
Like if I were at a club, I would be as excited as I was when I like went to see John Carpenter perform. Like I'd be like, yes, all my worlds are colliding with Ninja Turtles and cool music.
All
All
right.
right, so our last question comes from Rosalie, and I don't have it up anymore.
Have you ever taken a trip or vacation inspired by a movie? And if so, where did you go? And what movie prompted you to travel? I actually do have an answer for this. I don't know, Adam. Do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, why don't you go first?
So the one that really happened, I have a bunch that I would want to do,
Right.
which I'll tell you about. But the one that I've actually done was I wanted to go to Austin, Texas because of Death Proof.
Hmm.
And I went to Guero's and Texas Chili Parlor and everything like that. And the only reason why I went to those places and why I went to Austin in the first place was because Death Proof made it look so cool. I want to go to the Field of Dreams
Hmm.
site in Iowa. I want to go to Phoenixville, Pennsylvania for Blob Fest with the theater from the 1958, The Blob.
Yep.
Um, I would like to go to Salem, Massachusetts to see Hocus Pocus locations.
Hmm.
And I almost went, I used to travel out east a lot, and I almost stayed at the Yankee Peddler Inn, which is the hotel from the innkeepers, but it has since closed.
So mine, the one that I have, not really a vacation, but it was more a sort of middle of the night sort of college trip. This is in two halves. I have traveled to Red Bank, New Jersey, the location of Chasing Amy, where many of the characters in the Kevin Smith universe live. I drove by myself out there to see the entrance to the building where Banky and Holden have their apartment and comic studio.
Yeah,
There's a very sort of famous street. It's Jack's Music Shop. I drove out there once in a period of uh, existential wandering, and just to see it. I have a picture somewhere. If I can find it, I'll post it here, but I don't think I have it anymore. But I have a picture of myself sitting under there. And then also in the Kevin Smith universe, I have traveled to Leonardo, New Jersey to see the Quick Stop. I wanted to, of course, go in and buy a Gatorade and a pack of cigarettes from the Quick Stop, which
Yeah.
my friend Mike and I did around the same time. It's much smaller than it looks in the movie,
Mm.
and but it was a fun trip.
I looked up places in Oregon for Free Willy shooting locations, but there wasn't enough of them to warrant a trip, and it wasn't close enough to the last existing Blockbuster. Oh, and I've been to the Home Alone house a couple times.
Right.
That's nearby. That's like a
That's not
half
too
hour
far.
drive.
Yeah.
I went to on a during COVID in 2020. I everything was closed down, of course, but I did a walk. I recreated the walking tour for the Groundhog Day locations in
Mm.
Woodstock, Illinois. So that was kind of fun. There's a giant like Groundhog Day mural by one of the movie theaters down there. So, but thank you everybody for your questions. We really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are going to be back next week talking all things Beverly Hills Cop and the Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Until next time. Movies. Is that
Okay,
is that something?
2 thumbs up.